decided not to. There, okay. All right, now we're going to go back to review again the preamble, the number, okay, number, either routine, health and welfare, priority, or emergency. Handling instructions, first ham to put the message on the radio, number of words in the text, groups or words, whatever. If you're very generous about the meaning of the word words works, okay. Place of origin, city and state or Canadian province, time and date filed, okay. Summary, again, I don't need to go through this again, right? I've been going through it 4 times already, okay, that's fine. If you're on a repeater, you may want to release the PTT at this point so you don't time out the repeater. I mean, you need to have a couple of resets in your radiogram presentation so you don't time out the repeater. Okay, now for the address section, the more information you include, the more likely the radiogram is to be delivered. Okay. There are some people who are traffic handlers who are well known enough around the country that all you need to put there is their call sign. Okay. But there are very few of those. Okay. At least the town and state is needed for routing. Okay. So I could easily send a message to November 1, India, Quebec, India, Pembroke, Massachusetts. Okay. He's very well known. Okay. But everybody else needs an address, a phone number, and include the zip code, because if the message goes on digital, the routing is through the zip code. Okay. Most delivery is by telephone, so include the telephone number.
Oh, back up, wait a minute. I'm right too slow.
The slides are going to be available, okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't need to take notes on everything. Yeah?
Did you include that AA at the end
No.
of the time?
No.
Why are you doing it here?
Well, just to show you guys that if I was doing CW, I would send it.
Right.
Okay, but I don't always write it down. Okay. When I was starting to use CW nets, I wrote it all down so I could remember what to send when. Okay. Now I can do some of that in my head. But if you're sending it on voice, there's no reason to put those markup pro signs in there at all. Okay. Okay, when I say this on the air, I say, well, I assume everybody knows how to spell Kate. Okay, so I say Kate. Hutton, I spell. Hotel, uniform, tango, tango, Oscar, November. When we say a word, before we spell it, we put in I spell. Okay, so that the other person knows what we're doing. Okay, then we pause, and then we say amateur call, Kilo 6 Hotel Tango November. Now this, for example, amateur call is called an introducer. It tells you what the next thing is that's coming is. Okay, and there are several of those. Amateur call is one of them. Generally, the last name should always be spelled. And any other, if the first name is ambiguous, you should spell that also. Okay, Joe, for example, could be Juliet Oscar, or it could be Juliet Oscar Echo. Okay, so you'd want to spell that. There are procedural words or pro words that we use in passing traffic. In other words, Roger has a very specific meaning. I mean, it could be somebody's name, but in this case, it means I copy your message. So you never say the word Roger in the course of the passing of the message until the very end. When you're sure you have it, then you say Roger. If you want to say yes, you say affirmative. If you want to say no, you say negative, because these are easy to understand in poor propagation conditions. There's a story about this. You never say repeat anything, okay? You always say again. And the story of this goes back apparently to the military artillery units. If you said, if you said repeat, then you got all the same bombardment that you just got before. So they never said, they learned pretty quick not to say that. And they say again, okay? And I spell means I'm about to spell phonetically the word I just said. So I would, in the example, it was Hutton. I spell, hotel, uniform, etc. And part of the business about phonetics, especially in the NTS, because it's so key to what is expected to be said, to make it the accurate copy, use standard phonetics. Don't use DX phonetics. Okay, because if you say Japan, America, somebody's going to write Japan, America. Okay, they're not good. But if you say Juliet Alpha, they're pretty clear on what you're trying to get across. Okay. Okay, these were what I called introducers. I talked about that. I talked about amateur call. Means the next thing I'm going to say is somebody's call sign. Okay, but there are others as well. In the text, when we get to a group of numerals, we always say figures first. Some people say number group instead, but figures is most common. If we have a group of letters such as November Tango Sierra, we would say initials November Tango Sierra. And initials November Tango Sierra is one group, or one word in the text. A mixed group would be something like Romeo November 6, which is the 6th region traffic net. Something that includes letters, numbers, and or a slash mark. Okay. Okay, now we get to, here's an initials, okay? Initials, Papa Oscar. Box, figures, 60212. Pasadena, initials, Charlie Alpha, figures, 9116. Okay, see how I use the introducers? Questions? Okay. Telephone figures, 626-123-4567, which is not my real phone number. Okay. There is a controversy about how to use introducers with this. Some people say there are no telephone figures, there's only figures. Okay. And so they would say figures, 626. I like to use telephone figures because it lets people know there's 3 groups there. Okay, and there are 3 groups there. If you put someone's telephone number in the text, it takes up 3 spaces. Yes?
You're supposed to define the telephone number. You can't put all that. That's not one group. You have to do it in 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's too long. I mean, you'd lose people in the middle of passing 7-digit phone, or how many, 12-digit, whatever, 10-digit phone number. They wouldn't like that. Okay, text, generally limited to 25 words or less. There are some messages that you will hear on the air that are longer than that, but not very many. We don't use conventional punctuation, but we do use X as a sentence separator if it's ambiguous without it. We use query as a question mark. If we have to use dash or hyphen, that's spelled out. And all of these count as one word. So your X counts as one word. Your query counts as one word. Okay. We talked quite a bit about groups, words and groups already. They can be words, initials, figures, or mixed groups. And we usually write in groups of 5, so it's easy to count. Because the first person, after the person passes the text, okay, the first thing you're going to do is count the number of words so you can find out if the check is right. Okay, and if the check doesn't agree with what you have, then you have to just figure out what the problem is between the 2 operators. You have to figure out what's missing or what's extra. Usually it's something becomes 2 words that was 1 word, or the other way around, and so forth. But occasionally it's something important that gets dropped off. Okay, so now if we get into the text, this is just an example of how to read it, okay? Initials, Romeo, Echo. Your mixed group, November, Romeo 20. Mixed group, Mike, Alpha, Romeo 4. Not, I spell November, Oscar, Tango, okay, as opposed to Kilo, November, Oscar, Tango. If it was ambiguous, you would do that. Slithy, I spell Sierra Lima, India, Tango, Hotel, Yankee. Okay, so now we're getting into stuff that's not obvious, so you probably have to spell just about everything in here. Now do you see why CW is faster than voice? And you know, this is part, as I described before, this is part of the trivia game that we had. And for a while we were trying to challenge the copy more than the trivia. In other words, we were trying to send stuff that was difficult to copy. And we finally stopped that because we thought we were probably discouraging beginners. But we were having a good time, okay. How do you, well, one of the questions was, what was the name of the volcano that disrupted all the air traffic in Europe a couple of years ago?
How did you divide that up? I mean,
Oh, it's all one.
no, but I mean, you're trying to get it in the blocks for the gram?
Well, it's the word was half the line. And I only had to repeat it once on CW. It went through twice. Yeah. Okay, now you notice that when I voiced that, I voiced it slowly enough that you could write it down. And I think it's very important to learn to find the right speed for the person you're sending to. Okay, and not everybody on the net's going to be writing at the same speed. So that they can write it down correctly, but they don't waste a bunch of time on the net. Okay, some people, when they start out, they're going to be too slow. Some are going to be too fast. You have to sort of find where the spot is. Okay, and it's called copy speed. If there's a problem with the check, then you might want to. They'll say read it back at reading speed, and then you'll just read it like you're talking, and they'll be able to count the words, but they wouldn't be able to write it. Okay, but the copy speed is essential to keep this whole thing from being like the child's game of telephone. Okay. Okay, signature. Unfortunately, many of the forms that you have, especially the yellow ones, don't have a space for it, but it's very important, and it's the person that's actually sending the message through the ham operator. And it goes, well, let's see where go back to where a radiogram is. It goes right here, below the last line and above this stuff, okay? Right in here. And if the person wants an answer, especially if they're not a ham, so you can't look them up on QRZ, they need to include their phone number or delivery information if they think the other person doesn't have that already. Like if they're a relative, they probably have it. Okay, so they can say Uncle Joe or whatever there in the signature. But if it's somebody that they think the person who's the radiogram is going to doesn't have their phone number, they should put the phone number in there. If you, yeah.
I'm sorry, Kate. I didn't understand something. I'm reading here, the signature, this is the person on whose behalf the radiogram was originated. In other words, it's not my signature, but somebody else's.
If you're the originating station, who are you in this example?
I am just the receiver of the message by the person who's sending it.
Okay, then you put that person's name as a signature, and you put your call sign in the preamble.
Right, okay.
Okay. And you put their location in the preamble.
Right.
Not yours.
Right.
Okay. And here's an example of somebody who's pretty well known, so we only need his name and call sign and town. Okay, Bruce, W6WW, Apple Valley, California. And it's also, this is part of the message, it's important to let people know that you're finished, okay? And so you say, end of message, no more, or one more, or more, okay? Meaning that I have more. Okay. Okay, let's do a little exercise here. Write a message. Take one of these forms that you've gotten and write a message. Consider writing a message that you might actually want to send. And you can turn off. And which one?
This is where you're, just one that's kind of filled out.
There?
No, we're on that. Yeah, right there.
That one? Okay. Way that if you have not signed in, please ask for the sign-in sheet. I would like to invite you to join that. That's why I'm asking for email addresses.
The principal, my last principal, he chopped off his thumb, and they were able to reattach it on Melinda.
A question that came up, well, the question was about using the X-ray, initial X-ray in your message. It's really to clear up ambiguities in the message. We would, if it's possible to send the entire message without any punctuation in it, we do that. Okay, but if we have to separate 2 sentences or 3 sentences, then we put initial X-ray in between the 2 sentences, and it counts as a word. X is a word. Okay. If we are sending an email address, the dot in there, is a word, and it is spelled D-O-T. Okay. Like, for example, if I sent my email address in the text of my message, it would be amateur call, Kilo 6 Hotel Tango November, and the next space would be dot, and then the next space would be initials Alpha Romeo Romeo Lima, and then the next space would be D-O-T dot, okay, and then the space after that would be .net, okay, N-E-T, okay. So it's actually fairly cumbersome to send email addresses through radiograms, but it's possible to do that. Yeah.
This probably was resolved 20 or 30 years ago, but when, 40 years ago, we didn't have email addresses, but we had radiograms.
Mm-hmm.
So when something new comes along and they have to figure out, okay, what's going to be the best way to handle this in a radiogram, how do they do that? Or is that a distraction?
Okay, well, I really, I hadn't gotten into this, but the NTS is run by a group of people called the area staffs. Okay, and they're the people that staff the Pacific Area Net, the Central Area Net, and the Eastern Area Net, and there's a chair of each one of those, and those guys decide how things are done. Okay, and a good example is the @ sign in the email address. Okay, a lot of us just use the word at, okay, A-T. Okay, another choice would be, and I don't even know what this is, and I operate CW, is what, there is a CW symbol for that, okay, and you know what it is, probably, right? But what they decided upon was the word @ sign run together, A-T-S-I-G-N, as one of the blocks, okay?
So that's the word you would write in her
That's
sign.
@ sign, yeah. And if you have questions about any of these, like, minute little details, this is Appendix B for the Public Service Communication Manual on the ARL website, okay? Otherwise known as the Methods and Practice Guidelines. It's the MPG. And everything is in here. Everything, you notice all my like little Post-it notes and stuff that's in there.
Have
Okay.
you read that?
I have.
And
I have. And sometimes it contradicts itself, but it's actually a very good technical manual. It's very well done. And I wouldn't, well, it's great for bedtime reading because it'll put you to sleep. But don't drop it on your nose, okay? Question.
It's now 1:30, or could it be 13:30? Is there a preference?
I would use 24-hour time. 24-hour time, yeah. And you just specify if it's local or Zulu. Okay. And do you have a question? No, okay. Yeah.
If you have an exceptionally long word, is that broken up or is that counted as one word?
Oh, you mean like AFLIOCO?
Yes.
No, that's all one word.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. May I go on? Does anybody have any more questions? Okay. Now you're going to send these radiograms, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I had to go way back for that. Okay, so what's wrong with this? Let's look at a bad example here.
Missing the NR.
Okay. Some people don't write the NR. Okay, that's
The count is wrong, I think.
the count is wrong,
I
probably.
think so. At least my count is.
Okay, well, just try to find John in Los Angeles.
Yeah, right.
Okay, especially when 3232 phone number.
No.
Okay. Here's K6TZ is a club station, which means if you have to HXC it, you have to go on the internet and find out who's the trustee for the call sign for the club, and find out who's the president, find out his phone number. Okay, it's not an easy service. Okay, but they wanted a service. Okay. Less than minimal delivery information. And it's obviously an error in the phone number. Okay, Judy will tell a good story about how she's delivered this message.
Do you want me to come up and tell the story?
Yeah, sure, come on right up here. And actually, probably Lamont in Santa Barbara is not that unique a name either.
Okay, first of all, this was from field day, not this year, but the year before, and I picked it up to deliver. And so I had to do a little detective work. It was pretty obvious that 232 was actually 323. Oh, okay, sorry. So I went ahead and did some research. I actually did a reverse lookup and found it was a hotel. And I called the number, and I actually got lucky because John answered. And so I was able to deliver it. And he laughed and he says, oh, that sounds like, and I explained that it was field day and that this Lamont person had stumbled across a field day site and sent this message. And he laughed and said, oh, that sounds like something Lamont would do. So, and then to service it back, what I did is I went to the club website and searched through the list of board members until I could come up with one that I could find a phone number for, and then I sent the service message back.
Due diligence, yeah, and it actually pays to have some detective skills in traffic handling. There are enough errors out there, okay? Okay, so if you think that all you're ever going to do is what you've just done so far, I guess you're done with the class, but I please invite you to stay because I'm going to explain how to get onto a net and send your message now. And we have a demo set up. Well, yeah, let's do the whole net control thing on this demo. Okay, you guys come up here and staff these mics, and Bruce will turn those mics on. And I'll be net control. You're the RN6 rep, Robert. Now, you're doing it in the mic, you're not doing it on the HTs, right?
I know, but
Yeah,
it's
okay.
like, I feel more
It's a good
comfortable.
prop.
It's my security blanket.
I don't have traffic.
You're taking traffic. You want something to write on?
Yeah, no, it is.
How close should we have them get?
It'll get, right about now.
Okay.
Okay, so we're sort of starting in the middle of a net here. We'll now take check-ins from any stations wishing to list traffic. Please give your call sign phonetically and give your name and location. After you key your microphone, please pause briefly before speaking to give the linked repeaters time to activate. This is K6HTN, net control.
Kilo 6, Foxtrot Romeo Golf.
K6FRG, thank you. Please list your traffic.
I have two. I have one for W0RJA in Arcadia, and I have one for RN6.
Thank you very much. W0RJA, you're the representative for RN6. Would you please call K6FRG and pick up two messages, one for RN6 and one for your station?
K6FRG, W0RJA. Good evening, Judy. I'm ready to copy your RN6 traffic.
Number 2, routine, Hotel X-Ray Golf, Kilo 6, Foxtrot Romeo Golf, ARL 15, Los Angeles, California, July 14. Lauren, November 1, India, Quebec, India, Pembroke, Massachusetts, break. ARL 40, I spell Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo, Tango, Yankee. 7, I spell Sierra, Echo, Victor, Echo, November. Figures 216. Amateur call Kilo Alpha 0, X-ray Tango Tango. July 13. Mixed group 1330 Zulu. ARL 60, I spell Sierra, India, X-ray Tango Yankee. 7, I spell Sierra, Echo, Victor, Echo, November. Figures 217. Amateur call Kilo Alpha 6, Alpha Tango Tango. Phone disconnected. Break. Duty, Juliet Uniform Tango Tango India. Amateur call Kilo 6, Foxtrot Romeo Golf. End of message, one more.
And her mic's keyed throughout that whole time?
Probably not. Probably going to be a break after the address section and a break after the text. Because otherwise you could time out the repeater. And there are some things in that text that I will explain later in the talk. So don't worry if you don't know what ARL 67 is.
K6FRGW0RJA. I need a fill all after disconnected.
All after disconnected. My signature, Duty, Juliet, Uniform Tango Tango India. Amateur call Kilo 6, Foxtrot Romeo Golf. End of message, one more.
K6FRGW0RJA. I roger number 2, and I'm ready to copy your next.
Number 1, routine, Kilo 6, Foxtrot Romeo Golf, 16, Los Angeles, California. July 1-4, going to Robert Allen, to you, W0RJA at your station. Break. Congrats on your, I spell Yankee Oscar Uniform Romeo, excellent show. July, figure 4, X-ray. Glad it, I spell India Tango, lasted longer than, figure 5 seconds. Figures 7-3, break. Duty, Juliet Uniform Tango Tango India, amateur call Kilo 6, Foxtrot Romeo Golf, end of message, no more.
K6FRG W0RJA, Roger, you're number 1. Thank you for the traffic, Judy. Back to net through you.
Thank you for taking the traffic. K6FRG, back to net.
W0RJA, this is K6HTN. There is no more traffic for you. You may be excused from the net.
K6HTN W0RJA, thank you. Good evening, Kate in the net. I will secure.
K6FRG, you have no more traffic. You may be excused from the net.
Thank you. K6FRG, clear.
Okay, go.
Did she give a check? Was there a check in there?
Give checks?
I didn't hear one either.
I didn't hear the second one.
Did I
check in the second one?
Did I give you a check in the second?
Yes, there was.
Yes,
It was correct.
Oh, that
there was a check in the second message. It was a correct check. What there was not in the second message
Okay.
were handling instructions.
Yeah.
And there didn't need to be.
I see.
Okay, now she took a couple of shortcuts in there that we hear a lot, but you probably don't need to worry about when you start out, and that is, instead of giving the address on the second one, she said going to your station. Okay, and that's acceptable when you're directly giving it to the person. There are also some cryptics in there, ARL 67, for example, which I'm going to talk about later in the talk. So let's ignore that for now. But other than that, do we have questions? Yeah.
At no time, he doesn't read the whole message back for
No.
confirmation.
No.
Unless you have it.
We trust.
Request all information after a second.
Yeah. We trust him to know when he's got it or not. If he has any question at all, he'll ask for it. I mean, he asks for a repeat on everything after a certain point. But it's his responsibility to make sure he gets it right.
And I didn't ask for that repeat as an issue of a demonstration. She actually did get ahead of me. And I had to ask her for the repeat, so. And I'm not shy about doing it.
And which is a good point, when you are giving a message, you need to speak at copy speed. In other words, the receiving station, at the speed they can write down what you are saying. So
And don't make any guesses. If you're receiving the message, if you're not sure, ask. Because the goal is to have a perfect copy of the original message. Okay. Even everything abbreviated and spelled the same way. Okay, so don't be shy. Did you have a question?
I was curious what your typical traffic is like on a standard traffic net versus an emergency traffic net if you participated in one.
Well, I actually haven't. So, I imagine that there would be, well, I have a couple of examples in here where I tried to take some ISCS Hicks forms and translate them into radiograms. So you can sort of see what the chaos is like in that situation. But I don't have any disaster experience with the NTS, so I can't really answer that personally.
May I send one?
Hmm?
May I send one? A message?
Well, you're going to get on the net and send it.
Oh, good.
Okay. Actually, you're going to send it to each other in a minute.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
so just hang on. Okay. Okay, and now you notice that after you pass, they passed the messages, Robert acknowledged that he got the message. He said, he used the key word, Roger, the magic word. Okay, means I got your message. Okay, I don't have any questions. I think I got it. I know I got it. And that's it. Okay. And then there were two messages, so the second one came after he said, I Roger number 2, then she sent number 1. Okay, and then at the end of that one she said, end of message, no more. Now, this idea of asking for fills, in other words, things that you didn't get, there's sort of standard forms for that, too. Again, you never say repeat. You say again, word before. Okay, I missed the word before July. Okay, then she would come back and she would say, word before July, show. I don't remember exactly what the wording of the text was, but that it's pretty clear. She's asking for the word that was before the one she said here. Okay, you could ask for the word after. Okay, this is fairly common. You just miss a word. Okay, and you want to make sure you got it right. Or say again between, or say again all after. These are common. Okay. You can say confirm. And then, usually this would be spelling. You would say, confirm Hutton, Hotel, Uniform, Tango, Tango, Oscar, November. Okay, and then she would come back and she would say, affirmative or confirmed. Okay. Don't say Roger. Okay. Roger means something else. If she questions the check, then she says, say again, check. And the other party will repeat the check. If you can't resolve the difficulty with the check, okay, then what you do, well, I don't have that as an example here, but up there in the preamble when it says check 1.5, you put a slash mark and you put the new check that you think it is, check 1.3. Okay, and that means to any further relays that somebody in there questioned that the message might be wrong. Okay, we call that amending the check. That's the only option you have. Well, no, it's one of two options you have to change a message. You're not allowed to change a message at all, except for amending the check and adding an op note, which I'll get to in a minute. Say again, zip. That's pretty clear. Zip. 91104. Okay. Say again preamble, you can get the whole preamble. Okay. Say again text, you can get the whole text. Okay. There are many options. When you're done, Roger number 10 or whatever. Now, this is your radiogram. You hold this radiogram. It's a hot potato, and you're responsible for it. There are only a few options. You can relay it to someone else, to another traffic handler. You can deliver it by phone or in person or whatever, or you can declare it undeliverable and service it, which means write a radiogram back to the originating station saying, I can't deliver this message because the phone was disconnected. Okay, that's acceptable. Throwing it in the trash is not an option. Okay, now there are certain ways that we can send long messages by a short text, and you have seen this given as an example in the demonstration. These are called ARL, numbered radiograms, and I don't know, there's probably about 50 of them. And the way we do that is in the preamble, instead of the word 5, which would be the number of spaces used up in the text, you would say ARL 5, which means there are still 5 messages or 5 spaces used up in the text. We're still going to be using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, but part of that message is going to be an ARL numbered radiogram. Okay. And that would look like this, ARL 69 fists, figure 7-3. Okay, so that huge message that I got in the beginning of this talk about joining the FIST organization and how wonderful the organization is and how much I'm going to enjoy it, okay, that is an ARL standard text message, and when it's sent over the air, it's that short. AL 69, which is the one that she used, no, 67, which she used in the example, means I can't deliver your message because, okay, and it was phone disconnected, okay. ARL 47 means I delivered your message and then you give the date and time, okay. I think these may all be on your pink card.
No, I didn't see
There's
it.
not on there, okay. Well, there are many sources on the internet. Find one and print them out. There is, probably the most important chapter in this is actually pretty short, and it's the message format. And I would just print that chapter out and keep it on hand next to your text, next to your desk in your shack. Examples, 46, greetings on your birthday. You'll see quite a bit of this, okay. ARL 47, your message number, the message number goes in there, 2, and then was delivered the date and time. Okay, that means a successful delivery. ARL 50, all it means is greetings by amateur radio. A lot of messages, if you send one to a non-ham, the first 2 letters in the text are going to be ARL 50.
Okay, that ARL 47, okay, would follow your, no, ARL 47, Bob, to Bob, delivered July 14th, 0200.
Yeah, right.
That's what you would fill in.
Well, usually you put a call sign, but
Yeah, call sign,
yeah,
the message.
yeah. Or a last name. If it's not a ham, then
Okay,
you
so
could put a
what
last
you're doing
name.
is you're filling in the blanks rather
Yes.
than your message to delivery.
Yeah, right. So this is actually a message that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 if you separate the date into the month and the day. Okay.
Are years normally left out of?
Normally, yeah, you know, if you can't deliver the message in a year,
Yeah.
it's pretty much lost anyway. So that's why we don't put the year in the preamble either. You know, we really have problems if you can't deliver the message faster than that. Okay. Let's see, ARL 50, ARL 51. Greetings by amateur radio. This message is sent as a public service by ham radios operators at SOS Emergency Preparedness Fair. You know, I mean, you know, whatever. I mean, any place that you're in public eye and you're taking radiograms. Field day, for example, might be going in there. 67, your message number was not deliverable because phone disconnected is the most common one. General comments about messages. Never change the message. I went through this. The only changes you're actually allowed to make are amending the check and, you may refuse a message if it appears to be illegal. Like if somebody's trying to run their business by radiogram, which I can't believe, you wouldn't want to accept that. You can say, I can't take that. That's not part of the amateur radio purview, okay, and refuse to send it, okay. But once you accept it, you don't change the message, okay. You're allowed to add an op note, okay, like this, for example. Like if you're pretty sure the phone number's wrong, okay, you can say, you can't change the phone number that's given in the message, but you can put in an op note right after the phone number that says, op note, tell maybe, and give what you think is the correct number. You can use op note to help with delivery information. Like if you know somebody doesn't want to be called during the day, but only at night, then you can say op note, deliver after 4 p.m. Now, in this case, there were 2 phone numbers given, okay, and it's try 2106, tell first, then 3808, okay. So you can give that, or you can say op note business telephone, so that people know to call during the day. That, you know, some people might want to have might not want to have their personal phone number out there in the world, you know, but they might use their business phone. Okay, now I gave this presentation to a bunch of hospital preparedness people in Orange County, and they gave me these Hicks forms to try to translate into a radiogram. Okay, and it was great fun. If you notice here, there's actually there's ASAP, which would be the same as priority, and you have a life critical, which is the same as emergency. So there's 2 radiograms at least in here, okay? There's no town in the address, okay? Everything's crossed out. Everything is in, you know, units, medical units, okay? There are order numbers. You know, good fun trying to write this as a radiogram. And 2 of us did it independently, and we came up with pretty much the same thing. And we made 2 radiograms. First one is number 1, emergency, HX echo, ask for an answer, okay, blah, 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 Mission Hills, California, October 29, and then customer support for this health organization, unknown town, okay, and this is where you cross your fingers and hope the phone number's right, okay. But I put the phone number in, and then I got into this is longer than 25 words, okay, but in an emergency, if that's what you need to do, you do it, okay. And, you know, and then I just went through the items one at a time. Item 1, and I have mixed group, 5, Papa, Echo, Romeo, Charlie, Echo, November, Tango. Dextrose, Delta, I spelled Delta, Echo, X-ray, Tango, Romeo, Oscar, Sierra, Echo. In. Saline, I spell, you know, and you really would have to go through spelling almost everything, okay? You have to make sure you have the units right, the quantities, what, you know, everything that's specified in here. Oops. Everything that's specified in there you have to put in, okay? But it's possible. I'm just trying to prove that it's possible. Yeah.
Pharmacist made an error there. I'm a doctor. And you should be aware you should never put .3 without putting a 0 in front of the top. Otherwise, something else could be in there, and you could make a big error in the
Okay, so
the 0.3 milligram auto-injector on line 3.
the ham should have dealt more directly with the doctor to get the correct information, including the town.
Out of curiosity, should the national drug code be broken up with the dashes, or just reported as a single number? See the NDC codes?
Yes, I don't know.
Okay.
I think it is obviously you have to suppress, you add the leading 0, suppress the anything after any zeros
Okay.
after the
But
point mark.
if you're operating from the point of view of a ham operator, that's not your problem.
Okay, but my problem
Okay.
would be basically a possible violation of a HIPAA law
Yes,
somewhere in
right.
this
You can refuse the message if you believe that it would violate HIPAA.
On line 4,
Okay,
it is
yeah.
correct. It says 0.2 on line 4.
Okay, but what you should do if you get this, and if you know enough to know that this is a problem, you should interact with the doctor and come up with a mutually agreeable format message that the doctor believes will be understood on the other end.
Person
And then-
getting this could not write down that point, just write down 3.
Okay.
In which case, 10 times the dose would be given.
Okay, but I'm, you know, you know more than I do about medical, apparently, but, you know, I would say, to me, I don't see anything wrong with this, okay, because I don't know any better. But I need to make sure that the doctor approves the message, okay, or the medical personnel that gives me this form. After I translate it into the radiogram format, I need to get back with that person if at all possible, to make sure that it's gonna come out right on the other end, right? Yeah.
Question, you're doing this for the hospital or some emergency room. You know, supposedly you got the .3 wrong. Would they sue you? Could they sue you for that?
I have no idea.
It makes a big nuisance for you.
It's gonna be a commercial message, well.
Yeah, but it's in an emergency situation.
Which is permitted.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would have that's what I would have questioned. I would have questioned whether this was a violation of Part 97 for commercial use. But I think in an emergency situation that, and where life and property is at stake, that would be allowed by the FCC. That was my reading of Part 97. Yeah.
Yeah, reading this message, what I gathered from this was originated from Holy Cross Hospital, and as you said, this is a life-threatening situation, and I'm reading this message is going to a pharmaceutical company, and they would pick up on that mistake on the EpiPen, on the dosage, because obviously they'd have to look through their product as well. And if it's during an actual time of an actual emergency, I don't believe that the transmitter, the ham radio operator, can be held liable.
And I actually don't believe this would go over a net either. I think it would go through digital. And so there would be time to get back and question.
Yeah.
See, it says 03 there. It says 03 right in the middle of the slide. It says 0.3. Oops. I said 03.
No, that was in the order number. Now remember this was split into 2 radiograms. This is the emergency part, okay? If you go back on here, there were, over here it says, these are 1, 2 is emergency, and these 2 are ASAP. So I split those into 2. And here's the other one. And I had to put the 0 on there in this case because otherwise it would be completely incomprehensible as a radiogram. Because if you want to use the Romeo as a decimal point, you have to have something ahead of it. So I did change that. But again, I would have to take this back to the personnel that gave it to me and say, is this a good translation of what you sent, what you gave me? Yeah.
Capitalization of units, letters, such as milligrams, milliliters, and so forth, capitalization can matter. You're kind of trusting that the recipient understands that a capital M
Right.
is different than a lowercase.
And I am assuming that the sending personnel realizes that there's no case in a radiogram.
They may not.
And well, you have to tell them that, because there is no case in a radiogram. Because there's a possibility that this might be sent on CW. I mean, it's pretty remote, but it's possible. Yeah.
What would you do if you started the radiogram and in the message you found out that it was illegal, either commercial or spoiled or something or other? Do you stop them right there? And if so, what do you say?
In other words, the personnel is giving me a message that appears to me to be a violation.
Yes.
I would say I can't accept this message
Right
because,
then?
yes, because it's a violation of amateur radio rules. Okay. And if, well, yeah, that's, and so any relay station along the line, like if I got it from somebody else who happened to not pay attention to that, I can still refuse it. Okay, but once I accept it, I need to relay it. Yeah.
Now, the message doesn't necessarily have to make sense to you.
Right.
But if it's some form of encryption, or you think that it might be
the meaning might be, it might be say.
Yes, that's
something like
another-
code
another grounds,
7663
yeah.
Delta Charlie Tango.
That's another reason, yeah.
And you have
But you
no
have to be
idea.
careful because there are what we call net reports that go through the NTS, which are statistics on net deliveries. And they're pretty cryptic, okay? But any traffic handler knows what they mean. Okay, so if the intent is to code cipher the
Right,
message,
right.
then you have to make a judgment on that and refuse it. One person that I gave this talk to complained about the Jabberwocky in the previous example as a coded message. You know, it's really not. It's poetry. It's a standard 10th grade poetry. But anyway, one thing to point out here is the decimal point. I talked about this earlier, is an R in CW, so you can do it that way in a radiogram. There's another example here. And the slash mark is the only punctuation that you can really, conventional punctuation that you can put in without spelling it out, because it's part of a mixed group that is used in NTS quite a lot. So you can put it in there, and it's got a CW symbol that everybody knows what it is because it's on all the repeater IDs that you ever hear. Okay. And here was another one where they were asking for replacements for all these different types of personnel. And I think they gave it to me to see what I would do with the request for 2 X-ray technicians. Okay. And this is what I did with it. I did initial X-ray, figure 2, X-ray, I spell, X-ray, Romeo, Alpha, Yankee. Technicians, initial X-ray. So it's all in how you voice it. If it's an initial, you say initial X-ray. If it's a figure, you say figure 2, okay? If it's the word X-ray, then you say X-ray, I spell, X-ray, Romeo, Alpha, Yankee. Okay, it's pretty easy. Any more questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the previous message where you used the R convention for a decimal point, when the message is finally received or given to the recipient, you would have to translate
Yes.
that into plain text.
Just like you have to translate ARL numbered radiograms into plain text before you deliver them. Because you don't expect them to be traffic handler. Well, if you know they're a traffic handler, you probably just give the message as it was given to you, right? It wouldn't be a delivery, it would be a relay. Okay. But if they're not a traffic handler, and especially if they're not a ham, you gotta explain, you gotta make it clear, okay? Okay, you don't get a break until the tape runs out. Sorry.
It's any minute. I got 4 minutes left in this room.
Okay, well, what, can you hang on 4 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so now about getting in and out of the net. Okay, we went a little bit through that in the demo. Okay. I have a bunch of, okay, during the break I will get out some net schedules and pass them out. But we have quite a few nets in Southern California that you can listen to probably for a while, a week or two, then check into, then listen, then maybe take traffic or send traffic, and then become a regular member and so forth. Of course, you're all going to become regular members of the net, right?
So when you take traffic, are you committing to calling that person?
To do something with the traffic. Now, it depends on where it goes. If it's going to the East Coast, I take it to RN6. If I pick it up on the net and for it's a local person, then I call them and deliver the message. And then at the nearest civil hour. Okay. So the net usually starts out with some call, a general call, calling all amateurs. This is Jack, Kilo Oscar 6 Victor, net control for tonight's session of the Los Angeles Net. Okay. Pretty soon you don't need to have the script, you can just rattle it off, okay? This is a directed net. Please make no transmission until called for by net control, which means it's not chaotic. Net control decides everything and the order it happens in unless there's an emergency, okay? And he'll call in, ask for representatives from the different nets that normally send a representative. Usually that's RN6 and the other local nets. Okay, so once we establish who the representatives are, then he'll go for general check-ins. And then I made this may be a little confusing, but what I did was I made it how we set up the liaisons. Okay, so on Monday night we have RN6-1, SCNV, and RN6, okay? And we have a liaison specified for each net,
So
okay?
you have to be representing,
No.
no.
Mm-mm. But the first people that get checked in
Oh,
are
the
the
first
people who are
people
representing,
represent,
yeah,
I see.
right. So, but the point is, I guess, that each one of these people right in here are a liaison between nets, okay? So you can see from this diagram where they're going, okay, with your traffic that you give them, okay?
Kate, it looks like traffic is going, the same traffic is going to 2 different places and getting ahead of itself.
No, these are different days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
No,
Saturday.
but if you take the SCM/V,
Yeah?
it has 2 arrows coming up from it to 2 different places.
Okay. Some of the messages will be going east from here, and they will go to RN6.
Got
Some
of
will
the
go
rest.
to Los Angeles County, so they will go here.
I thought
Okay.
all traffic was going to both
No,
places. and
no.
that-
It's all dependent on where it's going to.
Okay, this is a tape change.
Okay, we may take a break. Everyone?